The Kansas City Chiefs season didn't just end on Sunday, it collapsed into a moment that may define the future of the franchise. As defensive lineman Chris Jones stood at his locker after a 16-13 home loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, a reporter mentioned that Kansas City had been eliminated from playoff contention. Jones paused mid-answer. "Are we out of the playoffs?" he asked. When he realized the answer was yes, he went quiet. That silence captured the shock that rippled through the organization. No late surge, no January magic, no eighth straight AFC Championship Game appearance to tie the New England Patriots' all-time record. Just the abrupt end of a 7-year run that included 21 playoff games and turned Kansas City into the NFL's modern standard of dominance. And then came the moment that made everything heavier. Patrick Mahomes' left knee buckled late in the game, the kind of injury that makes you instinctively look away. He was helped off the field, into the tunnel, and soon after came the news the Chiefs feared most, a torn ACL. Before Sunday, the conversation around Kansas City was already shifting toward whether the dynasty was nearing a crossroads. After Sunday, that question became unavoidable. Is this just a pause or the beginning of the end? Declaring the dynasty dead would be reckless. History tells us that even the greatest runs can stall and restart. The Patriots offer the clearest blueprint. After winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, New England went an entire decade without another title. In 2008, Tom Brady tore his ACL in the season opener, and the Patriots missed the playoffs entirely. 1 year later, Brady returned, and the franchise eventually launched the second half of its dynasty. 3 more Super Bowls and 9 total appearances. The lesson isn't that dynasties never end. It's that the rare ones survive because the 2 most important people stay aligned. For Kansas City, that means Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. As long as those 2 remain tethered together, adapting, evolving, and retooling, Sunday doesn't have to be an ending, but it does demand change. A lot of it. Mahomes' injury alone reshapes the immediate future. Because the tear occurred late in the season, he's likely to miss most, if not all, of the offseason program and potentially parts of training camp. The physical rehab is obvious. The football recalibration is just as important. Mahomes' game leaned heavily on mobility this season. That can't be the case moving forward. The Chiefs don't need and can't afford their franchise quarterback running through defenders on a surgically repaired ACL. Decision-making, discipline, and structural support around him will matter more than ever. That retooling comes at a delicate time. Travis Kelce's future is uncertain, and retirement is a very real possibility. Losing Mahomes' most trusted weapon during his first season back from a major injury would be a massive transition point for the offense. The Chiefs also face a glaring roster reality. The running game needs a true centerpiece, not a committee, not a stopgap, a legitimate difference maker. The Philadelphia Eagles showed the blueprint when they paired Jalen Hurts with Saquon Barkley to reduce wear and tear and stabilize the offense. Kansas City needs a similar commitment if it wants to protect Mahomes long term. Beyond that, something has been missing offensively all season. The unstoppable aura is gone. The prime era combination of Mahomes, Kelce, and Tyreek Hill is history, and replacing that level of explosiveness is brutally difficult when you're drafting at the bottom of the first round every year. Still, some personnel decisions simply haven't worked. The defense isn't immune either. It has flashed at times, but it no longer feels like a unit capable of carrying the team when the offense sputters. The pass rush isn't as overwhelming. The margin for error has shrunk. That's how a team loses 7 one-score games and watches a season slip away piece by piece. This is what a dynasty crossroads looks like. Problems everywhere you turn. Familiar faces aging out. Schemes that need reinvention. Pressure mounting not from outside critics, but from the standard you set yourself. The Patriots faced this moment too. They survived it because Brady and Bill Belichick stayed together long enough to recalibrate, despite massive egos, constant scrutiny, and plenty of reasons it could have fallen apart. Plenty of dynasties don't survive that phase. Ask the early 1990s Dallas Cowboys. Now it's Kansas City's turn. Absorb the lost season. Take the hard self-scout. Decide whether this is a franchise willing to evolve around its greatest asset rather than asking him to save everything again. Some dynasties end. A rare few simply pause. Whether this moment becomes a footnote or the final chapter depends on what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid write next, together. It didn't feel real at first. Chris Jones stood at his locker after the 16-13 loss to the Chargers, answering questions like, the season still had breath left in it. Then someone mentioned playoff elimination. He stopped, asked if that was actually true. And when the answer came back, yes, he went quiet. That pause said everything. For the first time since Patrick Mahomes took over in 2018, the Kansas City Chiefs are done before January even begins. No postseason run. No AFC title game, no chance to turn chaos into another Super Bowl parade. 7 straight conference championship appearances, over 21 playoff games across that span, the equivalent of an extra full season of football, suddenly reduced to a memory. And then came the image no one can shake. Mahomes' left knee folding, the kind of injury your eyes instinctively look away from. Torn ACL, season ending, potentially era altering. This is what a Dynasty Crossroads looks like. Calling this the end would be lazy. Dynasties don't usually die in one afternoon. They erode, they pause, they reset. The New England Patriots taught us that. After winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, they went a full decade without another title. Tom Brady tore his ACL in 2008. Coaches rotated, rosters churned, scandals came and went, but Brady and Bill Belichick stayed together, and that was enough to restart the machine. That's the parallel Kansas City has to cling to now. As long as Mahomes and Andy Reid remain aligned, this doesn't have to be the final chapter, but it is the end of a version of the Chiefs, and pretending otherwise would be dangerous. Mahomes' rehab alone will shape the next year. The injury happened late enough that he'll miss most, if not all, of the offseason program and possibly part of training camp. Kansas City will be conservative. They have to be. But the bigger shift won't be physical. It'll be philosophical. This season already showed cracks. Mahomes made uncharacteristic decisions. The offense leaned heavily on his legs at times, a luxury that likely won't exist in the same way again. The Chiefs cannot build a future where their most valuable asset repeatedly invites contact on a surgically repaired ACL. That means change. It also means loss. Travis Kelce's future is uncertain, and retirement feels closer than ever. If he's gone, Mahomes returns from the worst injury of his career without the security blanket that defined this era. No Kelce, no Tyreek Hill, no automatic mismatch to bail out broken plays. The offense already feels mortal and sometimes ordinary. Kansas City needs more than tweaks. They need an identity reset, a real running game, not a committee, not a stopgap, a centerpiece, someone who absorbs punishment so Mahomes doesn't have to. The Eagles recognized that with Jalen Hurts and paid Saquon Barkley when the league said running backs weren't. It won them a Super Bowl. That lesson shouldn't be lost on Kansas City. Protection matters too. So does reliability at receiver. Drafting late for 7 straight years makes it harder, but it doesn't excuse personnel misses. Something dynamic has been missing, and it's been obvious for months. The defense isn't blameless either. It flashes dominance but can't sustain it. The pass rush no longer feels inevitable. The unit can't carry the team when the offense sputters, and that's how you lose 7 one-score games. When margins shrink, flaws scream. This is the uncomfortable middle of a dynasty story. The part where the path forward isn't obvious. Look left, problems. Look right, more problems. The Patriots lived here for a decade before finding their way back. Some teams never do. The difference usually comes down to humility, patience, and alignment at the top. Kansas City has to absorb this season without panicking, without fracturing, without pretending the past guarantees the future. Some dynasties collapse under ego and denial. Others pause, recalibrate, and come back sharper. Whether this moment becomes a footnote or a finale depends on what Mahomes and Reid do next, together. Because this wasn't just a loss. It was the sound of a door closing. What matters now is whether another one opens.